Throughout this term, you're going to be using NETLAB in order to complete your weekly lab assignments. So I just want to show you real quickly where all of your resources are for figuring out and learning how to use NETLAB for this course. Okay, so if you go to the Submit Assignments Assessments section in the course, this will be where you will go to actually submit your assignments. And you'll notice that the very first thing in this section is some information here on NETLAB. And you'll see there are two files attached. The first is titled Using the NETLAB Environment, and the second one is just a student guide. The first one is really the first thing you need to look at, and I'm going to open that up here so you can see. This gives you information about logging into NETLAB. Gives you the URL that you need to go to in order to access NETLAB, and then it gives you your initial login information, your username and your initial password, which you'll be required to change. Okay, and there also is some information here about scheduling your lab time, which is something you do have to do with NETLAB. You need to schedule your lab time in advance in order to to make sure that you're able to access the lab equipment during the time that you're wanting to complete your lab assignment. The reason for this is because NETLAB uses actual real equipment, depending on what you're doing for a specific course. If you're working with servers, or if you're working with routers or switches or whatever, with NETLAB you're actually working with real equipment, and that's why you have to make a reservation to reserve that equipment for your use. So again, there's a good bit of information here that you'll want to just kind of scroll through and look at. The other document here, the student guide, goes into a lot more detail about things. You may or may not have to even look at this guide, but if you run into a problem that you can't find an answer to in either the Using NETLAB Environment document or in this section, which includes a video here that is very important. This video you definitely need to watch, because it will show you everything you need to know about from logging in to making a reservation and to actually use the devices that are in your lab. That's very important. So if you just click on the play button on this video, you can expand it to full screen by clicking here, and this video will walk you through everything that you need, from login to again working with the equipment that you have to work with in the lab. So make sure that you watch this video. This will answer all your questions. I'm going to escape out of that video just by hitting the escape button on the keyboard, and I'll pause that, but again, you'll want to make sure you watch this entire video. Really, the only other thing to add to this is that as you are completing your labs in NETLAB, just pay attention to the lab instructions and make sure that you're getting your screenshots at the appropriate times. In some instances, depending on what you're doing, if you go past a step that you were supposed to get a screenshot of, it may be difficult for you to go back and get that screenshot. So make sure that you're paying attention to that as you're going through your labs. But again, any question that you might possibly have about NETLAB and using it, chances are it's answered in this video, and then if not, then one of these attached resources here. But if you do run into a question that you just can't seem to find the answer to, just be sure to email your instructor.